Now that you have Austin, you'll begin the true grind, getting all the coins and power points necessary to build a powerful team that can carry you forward to the end. So where do we start? Well, you will want to level up Austin as much as possible and equip him with some decent gear. Tactical will work very well, but it depends on the missions you'll do. Austin's ability to generate gold only works if he's the one to get the kill shot, so it's important when doing these runs that nobody else is on the field helping him, or else you'll drain your own earnings potential. Each run begins the same. Send a unit out to kill a few zombies, getting enough rage necessary to spawn Austin, and spawn a barrel to kill your own unit so he doesn't go on a rampage and kill everything else in the level. The first 30 seconds can be quite critical in setting yourself up right. Too little and you'll get overrun. Too much and your Austins will be hanging out at the barricade with nothing to do because they killed too quickly. Use barrels to help wall off zombies from either hitting the bus or your Austins. Dropping a nitro tank on the final wave is really good to slow them down and allows your team to rack up the kills. Just don't unlock the nitro tank's final ability or else its damage will deprive you of kill shots. Make no mistake, the money grind is long and at times tedious. But fortunately, there's a bit of room on which missions you can do to make money. The format remains the same though. You'll want missions that have a lot of weak zombies that replenish themselves at a steady rate. For most people, the optimal mission is Location 1, Challenge 3 on any difficulty. If that's too difficult though, then you can scale down to something easier, going as low as Location 1, Mission 8, if you really have nothing else to go on. However, Challenge 3 will net you around 900 or 1000 gold per run or more, which is a good start. As you get stronger, you can explore other areas too. My own personal preference is Location 4, Mission 15, where I've made as much as 2000 gold per run, but this is with a very strong team. But yeah, I like this location for money making because the necromancers supply zombies at a faster rate than skeletons popping from the ground. With the right tuning, you can have a few Austins who don't push the line back but don't give way either, making for a great stalemate of endless killing that nets you a lot of coin by the end of each run. But again, start easy and work your way up. You should consider dedicating one of your 8 pre-selected team slots to a money-making team for quick switches too. Regarding team composition, for starting out, my own advice is to have Hillbilly, Mechanic, Blue Barrel, Nitro Tank, Medpack, and of course Austin. This way, the Mechanic team bonus will help keep the bus afloat, while Medpack and Nitro Tanks will help keep you in control of the field. Just be sure again to never max out that Nitro Tank. Regarding Austin, I made a video previously on which final abilities are best, but as one commenter pointed out, getting Austin's final ability, while not game-changing, is a good idea since it makes the grind a lot easier, and I'm inclined to agree. Austin's final perk of upping his chance to drop coins really ought to be your next goal, alongside building up the right team you want to use for Location 6 onwards. So that said, I'd look to unlock his final ability first before anyone else's. Where you go from here on will be up to you. Everyone will have their own advice on how best to progress, but for what it's worth, this is mine. First and foremost, I can't stress enough, play the team and the style that makes you the happiest. There's no point in playing if you're not enjoying yourself. But that said, there are 4 teams that are easy to access and effective in story missions. Those teams are, in no particular order, the Rednecks, the Marines, the Mechanics, and the Police. All other factions simply cannot compare in terms of ease of access, survivability, and potential to clear missions unscathed. Each of these choices will have their pros and cons. Here's my breakdown on each. The Rednecks you already know by now since we've been using them up until this point. They specialize in an aggressive Zerg strategy where you want to finish missions as quickly as possible before the enemy can build up to something overwhelming. The pros of this faction is that they are cheap, easy, spammable, not too gear dependent, and work on just about every mission. The cons are that they lack a strong range support outside Farmer who is a little bit gear dependent, and in order to truly shine, you will need 5 for 5 since their 5-man perk really plays into effect on their harder missions. But Rednecks are a ton of fun and can mow down the hardest levels in this game without breaking a sweat. So strap on those truck nuts and get rolling. The Marines are a team that thrive on effectiveness, efficiency, and cohesion. Their team perks are not flashy, but they're all excellent units in their respective roles. Max agility and aggression are a great combo that might not be worth going for in a gear set, but definitely make the difference as a faction perk. Most members are cost-effective units, especially Rodriguez, Sonya, Polina, and Tactical Ranger. Unlocking them is not too expensive since you will already have Rodriguez and possibly Sonya. 5 for 5 Marines is nice, but the 3-man bonus of max agility works very well too, eliminating the need to go all in for 5 members before seeing results. Marines are also a very PvP viable team, second only to the military team in my opinion, maybe on par with the police. However, a PvP viable Marine team will require unlocking some harder to get units like the pilot. Maybe it's still the novelty of it all since they're new to the PvP scene, but it's entertaining to watch a team of Marines deliver a beatdown to opposing teams. They're just really vicious. Lastly, Marines are excellent at knockbacks, more so than any other faction, with 4 members who have knockback effects to their attacks. This is definitely a bully team that will have no problem pushing around zombies on the field. However, cons of the Marines is that they don't always fare well against large, sturdy enemies immune to knockback, and insectoids who can jump to ranged units. They're also somewhat reliant on bullet damage DPS, with only Polina and melee fighters able to pierce through tough defenses. When it comes to this faction, they are my go-to team when I want to do something quickly like a supply run. Marines are one of my favorite factions, hands down. Mechanics are, in my opinion, the #1 choice for story progression missions. They are the cheapest to invest in and the most forgiving if you make a mistake, being that they're the only faction that can repair the bus. Although we've been using the Rednecks to this point, now that we have Austin, we can build up the cash to unlock some of the units that make the mechanics much more potent, mainly the turret. The pros about the mechanics team is that they are cheap, forgiving, and are easily the best faction for tackling the hardest missions later on, that being Location 8's Mission 2, and the current final boss, the Cephalopod. Best of all, mechanics thrive best with 3 units instead of 5, giving you wiggle room in your roster for support items or other units. The mechanics roster are mostly very good, such as Diaz, Polina, Redneck, and Carlos. The turret is the best support item in the game, and they can spawn them in for free with no cooldown between. People will have different takes, but for me, this is the faction to finish the second half of the game with. Drawbacks to the mechanics is that they can be a little bit RNG dependent, as you will need turrets to drop early on very difficult missions. You will also always need to have a turret in your active roster and have it leveled up as high as possible. Most of all though, they are only at their best when the mechanic himself is fully leveled up with his final ability unlocked. His DPS on normal to weaker enemies is second to none, and he alone can be a force of nature on the field, but only when he's fully leveled. Until then, he's a bit of a dead weight. Some of their better members can be a bit sluggish too, mainly Polina and Diaz. This means you'll really need to have Hillbilly or Mechanic ready to go to delay the enemy long enough for the rest to take aim. That said, there's really no better option that's more readily available than this team. Lastly, there's the police faction. Like the Marines, police is a faction that really doesn't have much in the way of drawbacks. Their team bonuses are among the very best in the game, and you can have any number of them and still have a very effective team. With a huge roster, second largest at the moment, they have some amazing units like Rogue and Diaz, who alone will tank the front line better than anyone else, as well as excellent range support like the Agents and Charlotte. Each of these factions' bonuses work too, the 2, the 3, or the 5-man, leaving you with a lot of wiggle room for customization. Personally, I love playing the game, having 5 for 5, and this is a great faction to go all in with. Drawbacks to the police is that they don't have a cheap fighter unit, and oddly enough, a very good shooter unit. They can also be a little bit higher in cost than other factions mentioned, but not so much so. It's just that if you're in a pinch, there's nobody who costs less than 20 courage at the moment, making you want to always have a courage generator on your roster in many missions, though there will be some levels where turrets make more sense. Now, faction investment choices are important. There's also the topic of item sets and which to go for. This is really a topic that merits its own video, but for simplicity's sake, let's do a quick crash course. For story missions, you're basically going to want to invest in the following. For ranged units, go either military or hunter once you're able to access location 8 supply run level. Shotgunners do better with military, other units do better with hunter, mostly. Most damager units are best using the gentleman set, but there are some units who specialize with something else. Cheap fighter units that are spammable should have the boss item set. Heavyweights will vary and in my opinion aren't always great for story mode missions, but each will have their own preference and there's no real general set for heavyweights, though I guess big boy is the closest thing. You should have a couple of tactical sets for missions that have bullet resistant enemies, and a couple lucky guy sets for missions where you need your units to be more sticky to the field than usual. Lastly, cost reduction is an excellent stat to have, and you'll want all items to have that if at all possible. That's about all I have for this video. I think I'm going to take a bit of a break between this episode and the next one because there's a bit of a grind ahead, and also I want to move on to some different topics. I'll still continue to work on this account, albeit a bit more slowly. If there are missions on location 6, 7, or 8 that you struggle with, please post them in the comments below. It'd be good to know what they are outside missions like location 8, mission 2. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.